Good morning, Year 8. Just me again. Another fun-packed maths lesson on algebra. Thank you for everybody that submitted the work yesterday. The vast majority of you have now done that. There's a few straddlers, so if they could get that work submitted, I would appreciate it, please. Okay, so today's lesson kind of follows on from yesterday's lesson and takes us back to, a long time ago now, when we were doing a topic called factorising, which is kind of the opposite of what you were doing yesterday when you were removing brackets. It's putting brackets back in. Now, there are two types of factorising. There's the one where you're just trying to put a single bracket in, and the harder one, which is where you're trying to put double brackets back in. And, as Sir's feeling mean this morning, those are the ones we're going to try and remember how to do. I'm going to take you through it, so don't panic. And then you're going to be trying a sheet. Not all of them, I hasten to add, just what you can fit in the time, which is this sheet here, factorising into double brackets. There are two exercises, one here, which are the simpler ones, and then the more complicated ones down the bottom, for which you will definitely need to use the box method. For these ones, you won't need to use the box method if you know what you're doing. So I'm just going to take you through that now, how you actually do these and put these into double brackets, and then I'll take you through a couple of these, how you put these into double brackets as well. These are the ones we're going to start by concentrating on. Now, in order to do the ones in the first exercise, you have to remember something we did in a lesson a while ago, and it was, you won't probably remember this, I can vaguely remember it, but we drew a kind of a table with 4 columns like this. Just draw it here now. Feel free to copy it out if you want. And what I did was, I basically said, I've got 2 numbers and I'm going to tell you what they multiply to make. I'm going to tell you what they add to make, and you've got to tell me what the 2 numbers are. So let's call them number 1 and number 2. Now, as a simple example, if I said to you, I've got 2 numbers that multiply to make 30 and add to make 11, you have to think then, what could those numbers be? 2 numbers that when you multiply them together, you get the answer 30, and when you add them together, you get the answer 11. The key to this is to look at that number first and just to think about different ways of multiplying numbers together to get 30. There's a limited choice. You could have 1 and 30. You could have 2 and 15. You could have 3 and 10. You could have 5 and 6. So those are your only possible options, really. And it's which of those is the correct one to make 11 here. And I imagine some of you are now screaming at your screens saying, so it's 5 and 6, it's 5 and 6. Because that one wasn't too bad. Okay, but the trick to doing these factorising is knowing how to do that. Is to just look at 2 numbers and work out what they times together, what they add to it, and think what the 2 numbers are. Here's another one. So, for example, if I've got 2 numbers that multiply together to make 24, say, and add together to make 10. I'll pause, see if anybody can get the answer. Have you got it? 6 and 4. Okay. Right. Now, it gets a little bit harder when you start seeing some minus signs here. So, you might see, for example, that the times number is just a normal number, but the add number, the number they've got to add to, is actually negative. Now, when that happens, because the times number is positive, the 2 numbers must both have the same sign. Because when you times 2 numbers together with the same sign, you get a positive result, be they plus or minus. So I know they've got the same sign, and if they were both positive, there's no way they're going to add to make minus 8. So I know they must both have the same sign, and that sign is a negative sign. So they're both negative. So effectively, I'm just looking for 2 numbers that multiply to make 15 and add to make 8, really. And I'm just going to stick minus signs on them. And that would be minus 3 and minus 5. Okay, so when you see that the times number is positive and the add number is negative, then that's what you do. Okay, moving on then. Here's another one. So suppose I had minus 12 as the number they've got to times to make, and they've got to add to make 1. Add to make 1. They're both fractions or something. It's a bit strange. We're going to add to make 1. Ah, but the thing is, you see, this is negative here. And the only way you can get a negative answer when you multiply two numbers together is if one of them is positive and one of them is negative. So the way to do this one is the same again. Just look at the 12. Think of ways of making 12. 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. And then think about if you put a minus sign on one of the two numbers, when you add them, could you get them to add together to make 1? Just 1. And it turns out you can. If you made the numbers -3 and 4, then they would multiply to make -12, and when you add them together, -3 add 4, you'd get 1. So these are probably the hardest ones to do, where you've got a minus sign here. You can actually, we'll do one more because I haven't done one where they're both minus signs yet. So I'll just finish with that one now. So let's suppose they were both minus signs. So something like, for example, what should we have? -63 and -2. Oh, crikey, that sounds quite hard, doesn't it? -63 and -2. Okay, so the two numbers have to have different signs, and they've got to multiply together to make 63. Right, so you've got to know your times tables quite well. You've got to think of the two numbers that multiply together to make 63. And they've got to add to make -2. Anybody got it? Give you a moment. Okay, it's 9 and 7. Alright, so it's 9 and 7. Those are the two numbers that we want to work with. But one of them has to have a minus sign on it. In other words, it makes 63. So which one has the minus sign? Well, that's where the -2 comes in. You see, if it had just been 2, I would have put the minus sign on the 7. And then I would have had 9 add -7, which is 9 take away 7, which is 2. But because it's a minus sign, I actually want the minus on the 9. And then when I add those together, that makes -63. Okay, so the next question is, what the hell has all this got to do with this? Well, it turns out that to find the double brackets for any of these, you simply need to know how to do what we've done here. I shall give you an example based on the ones in this sheet here. So for example, if you had a question that said x squared plus 11x plus 30, and you wanted to put that into a double bracket, you would simply do what I did in this table using these two numbers here. Okay, and this number here would be the times number in the table, this one, and this number here would be the add number. So the opposite way round to how I did them in the table. It's a little bit confusing, but this is the one you look at first. And I've already told you the answer, it's 5 and 6. And all you do then is write those like that. The question's done. That is how you do it. Okay, so all the ones in exercise 1 can be done in that way. Okay, I'll do one of the ones from exercise 1 in a minute just to set the scene. So let me just do another one. So if I had something like x squared plus x minus 12, okay, then just like the previous one, this would be the times number, minus 12, and this here, although there doesn't appear to be a number there, would be the add number. Now, if there isn't a number there, it's because it's a single x. It's actually a 1. Okay, I'll put the 1 in now so you can see, but it won't be there in the question. It's actually a 1. So two numbers that multiply to make -12 and add to make 1. Well, it's this one here. It's -3 and 4. Incidentally, it doesn't matter which way around you write these in the brackets. I'll deliberately do it the other way around this time, just to show you that that is completely okay. There we go. X plus 4. X minus 3 is the equivalent of that. that is how you do it, basically. I'll do one from the sheet. I've decided that I've already droned on for 10 minutes, so we're not going to move on to exercise 2 today. We're just doing exercise 1 today, and we'll leave exercise 2 for when you're comfortable doing these ones in exercise 1, where you go straight to the double bracket without having to do any working as such. So let me just do one from the sheet, just to show that they are the same as the ones that I've shown you so far. So I'll pick one of the harder ones, if you like, where you have a minus sign on the time. So let's go for, where's the first? Let's do question 10. So I'm doing question 10 now. Okay, x squared minus 2x minus 8. I'll just x squared minus 2x minus 8. X squared minus 2x minus 8. There we go. So x squared minus 2x minus 8. I've said that about 10 times now. So this is the times number, and this is the add number here. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to make minus 8. I don't know if I did this. I think I might have shown you doing it this way, where you put the minus 8, the number you're trying to get the two numbers to times to make, and then these two numbers here, so my answers, have to add to make minus 2. So again, I'm just thinking of ways of making 8, 1 and 8, 2 and 4. Not a lot of choice there. And I know one of them's got to have a minus sign on it. Well, it's not 1 and 8. It's going to be 2 and 4. Okay, because they times to make 8, and I reckon I can do something to make them add to make minus 2. Question is, which one has the minus sign on it, so that when you add them together you get minus 2? Pause for you to think about that. Am I going to put the minus sign here? Am I going to put it here? Well, I'm going to put it here, like so. Which means that the final answer is x plus 2, x minus 4. Incidentally, if you wanted to check your answer, if you're not entirely sure you've got it right, as long as you know how to do yesterday's lesson, you could check these, because all you do is you just multiply that back out using the box method. So to check that that is that, I would draw a box like that. I put the x and the plus 2 there, I put the x and the minus 4 there, and then I would just fill in the box, like so. And I'd get that. I would then write that out. X squared minus 4x plus 2x minus 8. I would notice that these simplify because they're the same type of term. They're both x terms. And hey presto, I end up with what I started with. Boom, done. That is enough for today. So we are only doing exercise 1 today. Leave exercise 2. I shall tell you how to do that next time in another fun packed lesson on Thursday. But for today, factorising into double brackets, you might want to copy that table out just to remind you how to do it. It's up to you. And then these are my examples here. And then you're going to attempt exercise 1. I reckon you should be able to get through most of those in the time that you've got. But obviously just spend up to an hour on this. Oh, and the answers for yesterday's are now, have I told you this already? Are now on the system. So if you want to mark them, please do that. I will try and mark some of these ones that you're doing today for you. I'm still working on getting good at doing that, but I'll get there. I'll shut up now and let you get on. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.